about the content creation process. And now we have Srilekha Karnic again with us to discuss about the content marketing aspect. So I'm sure that this is going to be yet another insightful, yet another amazing session. So first question to you, Srilekha, is that we discussed about that how do we actually create content? You actually provided your insights on that. So if a person has gone through that process, has actually created content, now, the next confusion is what platforms does he or she choose to actually put that content out? What is your strategy on choosing the right platforms for a particular content?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely very important. Now, not everyone is like me. Not everyone is on every single platform. A
Yes.
big reason why I am on, I think, everything that I know of is because I like to experiment on different places, just so I can document my journey. Just so if someone else is considering, they know what they're getting into. But
Right.
if you're creating content about something else, if you're not creating content about creating content, you should definitely have like a few platforms, like a good content mix, like a content ecosystem is what I like to call it.
Right.
So if you're choosing your first platform, I would say definitely go for something which you're comfortable communicating in the form of. So creating content is literally all about communication. It's about you communicating what message you're trying to get out into the world to your ideal audience. So you really have to figure out what is the best way you communicate. So I knew very like I just knowing myself, I know that speaking is something that comes very natural to me. I love doing it. I can do it for hours at
Right.
length, which I'm doing here. So obviously, it was either video or podcast for me. That was very clear for me because I knew that as compared to like writing or taking pictures or making the speaking was definitely one for me. But so if you're someone who's not comfortable speaking, then blogging will be great for you. And if you take beautiful pictures and if you like taking pictures of yourself and all of that, Instagram will be really great for you.
Right.
So definitely figure out what are your strengths and where does your comfort level lie. Because when you're starting off, don't think about what's good and like what's not saturated, what's new, all that. Just to get your feet wet, uh, go with like what you're already good at. And once you pick that, then I would say you can start exploring what makes the most sense along with your current thing. Like
Right.
if you're already doing let's say you're already blogging, right? You're already creating like long form written content. Choosing something like LinkedIn, where you can
Mhm.
take a few lines from that written content and just post it as a text post, it makes your
Right.
life so much easier. You don't have to do so much more work. So choosing that to be like your next platform makes a lot of sense. And something else you need to consider when you're picking your platforms, you need to have a good mix of both long form and short form content platforms, because
Right.
each have their own benefits and like advantages and disadvantages. So you shouldn't only have either or. You shouldn't just have blog and YouTube and not have social media at all. You shouldn't just have social media and not have something else, because
Yes.
long short form content is really great for reaching more number of people, for getting giving them like regular updates, being regularly in contact with them, and all of that. But you can't build any sort of credibility and like really deep engagement just doing like Instagram stories, just doing LinkedIn text posts, something like that. You have
Right.
to have like a good body of work that when you get people, you can take them and funnel them into this into like your YouTube videos, into your blog posts, into your podcast, so that
Right.
then they can like sit back and really get to know what you're talking about. Really understand that, oh, okay, if someone has made like a half an hour podcast episode about something, they probably know what they're talking about. It's very easy to make a LinkedIn post about a particular topic, but to speak about that for half an hour continuously, now that means, okay, she knows what she's talking about. So that really builds credibility. So you definitely should have both of these. So that's how I would say you can approach picking platforms to really distribute your content.
Right. Absolutely amazing. Because I also agree with this that when you're just starting out, exploring into unknown platforms will actually take a lot of time. So if you have been on Instagram, if you have been on LinkedIn, start with that initially because you already are aware of, let's say, 60-70% of the things that are there. So it won't take much time to actually research into the algorithm and research into what kind of activities are to be done on that platform. And then maybe you should have supporting platforms. When you have, let's say, YouTube and LinkedIn, you may explore into Instagram, Twitter, or other platforms there. So these are some very important points mentioned by you. Now, second question is that what are some of the content marketing strategies that you would suggest to people who are just starting out? Because ads is something that many people can't afford in the beginning, and it is a very technical aspect. Like you need to know Google ads, Facebook ads, and it takes a lot of time to learn that and actually implement it. So what are some of the organic strategies? Let's say, do we personally text people? Do we put out stories? So what do you do for your content marketing efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, like putting out stories, engaging with people, all of these are important, and they're so important that I feel like it's definitely everyone is aware of this. Like if you're
Right.
getting into this, you would have consumed a little bit of content regarding how to, grow organically. So I
Yes.
think, yeah, obviously having your niche, like being like pretty active, engaging, call to actions, all these things, I think people are aware. But something I personally was a strategy that I like applied like pretty early on that I'm still going to continue to do is that
Okay.
once I had my niche, which by the way took me a long time. Like it's so obvious that when you start creating content, have a niche, yeah, obviously, but it took me a long, long time to actually get a niche. But when I did that, something I actually did was also super niche down. Like that's something I have heard from a few places, and it really made a lot of sense because right now it's like to be honest, it is pretty saturated, right? Like there are so many, like everyone is creating content on Instagram. Everyone, like now LinkedIn also is like getting
Yes.
saturated.
Yes.
YouTube, obviously, we know that it's like been around for so long. So now to set yourself apart, like it's taking more and more
Right.
for a person to do in order to do that. Something I think will help you grow initially and help you grow a little bit faster is to super niche down. Like what we understood of niche of like, oh, personal development is a niche, digital marketing is a niche,
Right.
lifestyle is a niche, but that those niches have itself become so broad at this point. There are so many things under lifestyle, there's so many things under digital marketing, so many things under personal development that at this point you need to go even nicher. You need
Right.
to really pick maybe 2 or 3 topics maximum that you're going to talk about, because in this day and age it will really benefit you to be like a specialist, not a generalist, to be the
Yes.
go-to person for a particular thing. Like instead of talking about copywriting, now something that help you grow is like talking about copywriting for a specific business. Like I see
Right.
people talking about copywriting for like women owned small businesses. Like
Mhm.
that's how niche you need to really go to
Yes.
actually it's really big. The market is not small at all. Like whatever it is that you choose, there is a good market for it. Obviously you need to do your research, see if it's profitable to be in that market, because at some point you will want to monetize and all of that. So
Right.
are people willing to spend money? Your ideal audience, your ideal clients, are they willing to spend money? You need to really look into all of that. But I would say a big thing to focus on, to if you want to grow faster, you can definitely grow even if you're a little bit more broad than narrow. But I
Right.
think it's just going to take a little bit more time, because what really is an advantage of super niching down is that when someone comes across your content, they don't need to think a lot before they figure out, okay, I want to, no, okay, I'm good. Like I want to
Yes.
follow along, or I want to buy a product or something like that. Because if they like one piece of content and you're really niche, that means all your other content is also very similar to this. It's
Mhm.
not that one content is about books, next content is about like TV shows, next content is about something else. No, if you're talking about like specific books, like non-fiction books or something, all of your content is going to be about non-fiction books. So if one person likes one content of yours, very easily will they like everything else. So
Right.
making that decision of, yeah, I'll subscribe to this channel, I'll follow this page, becomes a lot more easier. That's why niching, like really niching down, is a big advantage. That's something I'm really trying to do. Another thing that I have been recently like learning about, and trying to do, that I'm actually going to be spending this weekend and this week on, is my branding. And I think that's something that a lot of people actually don't think a lot about. And I did initially, and then I'm like, oh my god, I have so much to do, I can't think about this again. But now I'm like, okay, have a little bit of time, let me get back into it. Like content is great, your copy is great, all of that, but I think branding really helps. And especially I feel like Indian creators, we don't really pay a lot of attention to that. Like I
Yes.
see so many feeds, so many like YouTube pages, and it's so messy. It's like completely different colors, different fonts, like no cohesiveness, all of that. It's we I don't think we understand the value of like good design and
Yes.
being aesthetically pleasing and all of that. So having like a good feed, having like having a color palette, having like 3 fonts, that you always defer to, having templates for your stories that you can keep using, all of that. It takes a lot of effort initially to actually make all of that, but once you have that, you can keep going back to it, and the end product will look really, really great. And imagine if your Instagram feed also looked like your, like, YouTube feed, and
Yes.
your all the content that you created was similar and looked the same. It'll be so
Right.
beautiful. So I think these two things, people don't think about, that could really, really help if you do actually spend time doing.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. So, first is choosing the niche is obviously very important, and a lot of people don't pay attention to this because they feel that the reach would be less if they go to a niche, or if they select niche audience. But then I would say, the relevant audience will actually see your content, and that's what actually matters. So I was seeing this interview by Seth Godin. So he said one line that really struck me, that he said that 99% of the Americans have not read his book, and he's completely fine with that because he has that 1% who actually
Mm.
reads his book. So that is the thing which matters the most. And second, about person branding, in my opinion, as well, it gives a lot of trust factor when it comes to your content, because if people don't know you, even if your content is the best in the industry, they won't actually see your content, because the personality, that's what we say for brands, right? The brand personality matters. Same goes for a person as well. The personality, the online personality, person brand matters a lot. So these were some great points mentioned by you. And one question that I'd like to ask out of curiosity is that YouTube or podcast, what would you choose?
Oh my God. No, no. I mean, I'm sure the easy thing would be to be like this one, but
Right.
obviously, like it, it depends on the person, of course. They definitely have their own pros and cons, and the obvious pros and cons of like podcast, I would say, is if you're not in a hurry,
Right.
if you have a lot of time, then go ahead with podcasts. Like in the sense of, if you have a lot of time long term, but if you have less time day to day, then I
Right.
would say like go for podcast. Like if like let's say like you're like a business owner or something, you have so many other things to do. Like you don't have the time to sit and make YouTube videos and things like that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
podcasts are really low effort, like a really, really low effort. You can take it seriously and obviously put in a lot of effort into it, but to even make a decent enough podcast episode, it doesn't take a lot. It takes me the least amount of time to actually make my podcast. So I would say then definitely go for a podcast. But the growth on podcast is so less compared to YouTube, because
Right.
YouTube has created a platform where it's easy to find people. Like
Yes.
if you know what you're doing, if you're creating searchable content, if you're creating content that can get suggested properly on other content, then you will grow. Like it's kind of like a given. Like it's not that hard, you will grow. Just you have to be patient. But
Right.
podcasts are not like that. Like the podcast platforms haven't been built in a way that people go and search for things and find new podcasts. So
Hmm.
you really have to grow somewhere else and keep pushing people onto your podcast, which takes a long, long time.
Right.
Um, so that's when I would say go for YouTube if you have more time now and you want to grow a little bit quicker. But definitely go for a podcast if you're not in a hurry. But maybe right now you don't have too much time, so you wanna get things out there. You want to create like good long form content, but you don't have the time to create YouTube videos, because trust me, like only get into YouTube if you have the time. Like if you have like yeah, like around 5 to 8 hours extra hours in your week to actually make a YouTube video. So that's how I could never choose. But personally, ever since I started YouTube, definitely YouTube is currently like my favorite platform. There's so many interesting things to learn making YouTube videos, and every single day I'm like listening to new podcasts about it, watching new videos about YouTube. It this because there's so much more, like within a video itself, there's the video, there's the script, there's the audio, there's just so many aspects to it, so it's
Right.
more challenging. So I personally like YouTube, but yeah, really it's really on your situation.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. These are some amazing points. And having that, so podcasts, I also personally feel that it acts as a supportive platform to your content on maybe YouTube and other things, because it's like 5% of the population actually go and search on Google that digital marketing podcast or social media marketing podcast, and the audience is very less. And the content is also long form. It's like 30 minutes podcast, 15 minutes podcast. So it will take time to get that kind of popularity. I feel that it will actually grow in the next 10 years, but then till those 10 years, you actually need to have a YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter to actually support that kind of growth on podcast. So, if I would like to know your last thoughts on overall content, any advices you would like to give, any suggestions for content marketing efforts, like you said about personal branding, like you said about having a supportive platform. So, any piece of inspiration, advice to people who are just starting out on their content marketing efforts, who are struggling with their marketing their content. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say if you're struggling, something that recently I also went through a time where a lot of things weren't growing right. I wasn't growing on certain platforms that I really wanted to and stuff like that. And what I, before I even considered like, okay, I'll just quit. Like, why am I, like wasting so much time on this?
Right.
What I realized was that it is always going to be a worthwhile effort to try to build your audience online, irrespective of if you have a job and you're trying to build a personal brand, or if you've started a company and you're trying to
Right.
build the company brand and your personal brand, all of that. It is not like a futile effort. It is always going to be worth it, because it's only going to get more important as we go forward to create organic content, to let people know who you are, to build an audience around your message, to build an audience around your product, your service, all of that. So
Right.
however slow it is, however hard it is, how many other things are not working out, in a sense you have to figure it out. You have no other option, because this is so important right now and it's going to only get more and more important. It's like, imagine if you had a business and you weren't able to like learn the numbers, you weren't able to understand what's your profit, all of that. Would you just give up? No,
Right.
you have to figure it out, because it's going to be what like is going to survive. Like, your business won't survive if you don't figure it out. So
Yes.
I really want people to understand that content marketing is that important to a business as like your finances and all of that. So just because it's hard, I definitely want to help people don't give up. Maybe it's the wrong platform, maybe it's the wrong type of content, maybe it's the wrong audience. There's so many things you can try before you actually throw in the towel and say it's like not working for me. Maybe I'll just do paid ads, or I'll just do other things. I'll just stick to traditional marketing or something like that.
Right.
I would say it's definitely worth it to learn about it. So keep learning, keep trying out different things. Something will work out, but it is important to understand this is a long journey. The earlier you start, obviously, the better. So if you have
Right.
started, like, you are way ahead of so many other people. So you just keep going. This is not even what I would like to help with, it's also what I like to tell myself. So I will really hope it helps.
Right. Amazing. And I'm sure that a lot of viewers would have got that kind of inspiration, that kind of boost to actually continue or maybe start their content marketing efforts. And it was an amazingly insightful session with you on content marketing. Yet again, we had a very insightful session in this video, and I'm going to put in the links to her podcast, to her YouTube video, to her Instagram profile and her LinkedIn profile. So go check it out. If you have not seen the previous video, go check that video as well, so you get that sync between the content creation and the content marketing process. And let us know your feedbacks, your views, your opinions in the comment section, if you felt that this was something sensible, something insightful, and if you follow something else, some kind of planning process, anything, we would love to know your process. And thank you, Srilekha, for being on this channel. This brings an end to the video collaboration series. It was amazing to host you, to get your insights, and I'm hoping for future collaborations, future insightful collaborations as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rahul. This is a great structure format that you've come up with, and you're really, really a good conversationalist.